Imagine one day you wake up and you go have a cold shower, then you go to the gym, then you get some random thing fixed around the house, maybe you clean up, and then you do some work task, maybe you make a new logo for your business, and then, you take a nap because you're already tired, then you talk to a friend, then you watch an educational podcast on YouTube, and then you unwind because the day's already finished. Maybe you cook yourself some nice dinner. This is a productive day, right? I would argue otherwise. This whole video is going to be about the productivity matrix, which tells us why some human beings are exceptional and exceptionally good, and others just don't seem to hit the mark no matter what they do. This is because we don't actually have very good capabilities to identify problems. The problem isn't with problem solving. We are very fucking good at problem solving. You're watching this video right now in front of your computer. You're seeing someone who you don't even know exists spit some fucking knowledge through a fucking computer lens, and you're sitting in a fucking heated room. So the things that human beings can do once they figure out what problems to solve for and how to invent things, they are amazing. You can literally do whatever you want. Your mind is limitless. Yet you usually won't figure out what to actually solve for, and you'll end up wasting your time on shit that you won't even remember, like not only 6 months from now, but like a week later. What did you do a week ago? Point proven. So we're going to explain this progress matrix, which explains every single thing that you need to know about how to be productive, almost everything. And if you don't have time, if you don't have the attention span to watch this few-minute long video, you're beyond cooked. I have very long videos on this channel, and this is going to be one of the shorter ones. And if you can't even watch this one, I mean, go and watch Mr. Beast or something, right? More power to you. So this matrix basically says there are important tasks which will yield you 80% of the results. This might be familiar to you based on the Pareto principle, which basically says if you put in 20% of the work, you can get 80% of the results, and if you put in 80% of the work, you can get 20% of the results. Obviously, we should be aiming for this one. So this is 80% of the results. These are the important tasks. These are the unimportant tasks, and these are the tasks which will aid us in the long term, and these are the tasks which will only help us in the short term. Now, starting off, this is the sweet spot. These are the only tasks that actually matter, okay? If you can find tasks for yourself which will help you long term, but also they're very, very important, you will win at life. That's literally it. You can click off the video now. Just kidding. There's some important things we need to talk about in order to actually be able to classify what tasks fall into this section. But the thing is, this quadrant is so fucking important because if you think about it, yeah, you can do important things right now, which will, like cooking a meal, for example, that would fall into here, which is short term, but it's quite important for you to survive. But the thing is, you won't remember that. Not only one day from now, but definitely not 10 years from now. So these are the stuff that will keep you alive. These are the stuff that is the most important to actually understand, because this stuff, the long-term stuff that isn't actually that useful, is how you kid yourself. This is how you fall into the trap of doing shit, feeling productive, making fake progress, as I like to call it, and then just watching it vanish, watching it not amount to anything. And we're going to talk about this the most because it's the most important, and this final quadrant is pretty much the instant gratification shit, which isn't really important, and it's also just short term. So this is usually not that important actually, because we usually know what this is. Like, very few people actually cope and tell themselves that, oh yeah bro, doing drugs is very important and it's productive. We usually do these kind of stuff not even in the lens of being productive, so it's not that important for us. So all we need to realize is that these tasks are the stuff that is going to move us forward. One of my favorite quotes of all time pretty much is, business is simple, but it's hard. And that's an amazing quote in my opinion. I've listened to a lot of quotes in my lifetime, and not many of them stick. You probably have this phenomenon, you've experienced it before, where you're like, oh wow, banger quote, whoa, that's so interesting, and then you fucking forget it a day later. This is one of those things that actually stuck to me, because if you think about it, like, what is a business? It's having an offer, which is like a product or like a service or something, solution to a problem, and you have people to sell it to. What else? Like, realistically, there's nothing else. There's a solution that you find to a problem, and you sell it to people. You make a gym because people struggle building muscle at home. Okay, you have a coaching solution because you've solved a problem in your life, and you have knowledge to help people through Zoom calls or IRL sessions. Okay, you have a fucking cow in your backyard, and you milk it, and you give people milk in a carton because they don't have access to a cow, so they can't drink milk. All of these are solutions to a problem. And if you think about it, it's fucking simple. Yet why do people not own businesses? Why do people not do things that they want to? Why do people not get rich? It's because it's fucking hard. Like, even if you had the facilities to start a business, which by the way you do, you probably won't go through with it. Even if you do start, you will shiny object syndrome yourself into doing something different, into switching. Like a few weeks in, you will convince yourself that you're dumber than you are or smarter than you are, and you'll switch because of that. Things will happen. But the thing is, if you just had like a service and you started cold outreach to people and you started doing it and you did it for fucking 6 months, even when the results weren't coming, eventually you'd be successful. But we tell ourselves that, oh shit, no, just because it's long term and we don't see the short term results, it's not working. Yeah, just fucking do something else. And this is where this part comes in, is the 20 long. These are the type of things which feel kind of good because we're like, oh yeah, this is going to amount to so much and yeah, it's so important. These are the things that we know we should be doing this, but instead we end up doing these stuff. For example, if you have an agency, much like I did about a year or two ago, and you have a service, let's say it is digital marketing for other companies, and you try to sell the service by writing to people, cold DMing, cold calling people, cold DM, cold email, etc., just telling people that your offer is available and you can help them. But then you kid yourself and you're like, wait, hold on, a new logo would be so nice for my business. Do you know how much a new logo will help? People look at your logo, that's how a logo works. People look at it and they're like, this is good or this is bad. And maybe the perception of your brand is ever so slightly increased. They're like, because this logo is nice, I am going to be 0.026% more likely to buy from these people. It's extremely slim. Like, it really doesn't matter that much. Even if you're like a fucking multi-million-dollar NASDAQ company, then it matters a bit. And if they don't like your logo, maybe it's going to be like 0.031% worse. The thing is, if you don't have any customers, if you're starting your business, this doesn't fucking matter. And if you have tendencies to self-sabotage and to kid yourselves and to, productive procrastination when you know you need to do something tough, like have a tough conversation with someone or do some business tasks that you don't want to do, and then you start cleaning the house. Stuff like this always fall into this category, or sometimes this category, but usually this one. The thing about this is that this is where progress is destroyed, pretty much, because if you've heard about the concept of self-sabotage, this is a thing that you might be saying, oh no, I don't have this. I've heard of it, yeah, but I don't have it. I don't fall into this lens. And you might not, but everyone who self-sabotages says that they don't, because this is subconscious, entirely subconscious. And I used to do this back in the day, because what I would do is I had an offer and I would, switch, and I would be like, okay, I'm going to serve this different niche of people now. I'm going to be fucking providing advertisement for dentists. And I would build out the offer, I would do interviews, I would watch a bunch of podcasts, I would get myself clued up, and I would spend a fucking month on making a website, making an offer, making like a new logo, researching, and I would have zero eyes, zero people looking at my business. And then I would be like, I just randomly forget it. I wouldn't even start increasing this and getting customers, because as we said, there's only customers and having an offer. And if you only work on one of them, and then you just forget it, you've done nothing. You've literally done nothing. You've made the whole bar of fake progress. You've literally done nothing. And I speak about this in this way because it really, really gets to me, because I used to be this fucking guy. I used to be the guy who was like, oh no, I know that I should be, like subconsciously I knew that I should be cold calling people and just reaching out to people and doing the hard stuff and putting myself out there to get rejected. But I was like, oh no, I should sit in my comfort and I should make a website because that's going to change everything. When I knew deep down, I knew that it wasn't going to, but I was just doing this because it felt good, and it was disguised as progress. This usually comes with the mask of this. So, the way you actually get progress done is to actually critically think about it and be very, very brutally honest with yourself. Is the task that you're doing in this area? I'm going to give you a few examples that do fall into this area, but might disguise themselves as this. So, 20 long tasks would be watching a podcast on things that aren't actually too adjacent to what you're curious about or what help you in your work. So if you randomly watch a podcast, maybe you watch Modern Wisdom or Diary of a CEO or one of these podcasts, and they have a new episode of someone who you don't really care about, maybe it's about aviation or some random niche, but you're like, yeah, this is like an intellectual podcast, so watching this will help me. I don't think so. I don't think so. So that would be an example. This would be, as I said, productive procrastination would be like cleaning the house. Sure, that might be helpful, but that's mostly like 80 short. That's like, okay, you need to kind of clean the house to be able to function, to have a healthy mind. But the thing is, you're going to forget about cleaning the house in a few weeks. That doesn't really help you anything long term. That's just to make sure that you can work on the long term things. So that in itself isn't any progress. Again, that's fake progress. Taking a cold shower, that's like, okay, the next few tasks you're going to do, you're going to be a bit more motivated, because if you take a cold shower, your dopamine can increase by 1.5 to 2 times for the next 4 to 6 hours. But again, that by itself is fake progress if you don't follow it up with any meaningful tasks. And back to this 20 long part, maybe you could work on a website or a logo or shit like this when you have 0 eyes, 0 people who actually view it. Well, then it doesn't matter that you've increased it by this ever so slight fraction of a variable. If no one is watching it, nothing is going to change. You just wasted a few days of your time. So actually critically think about this and think of yourself, what are mistakes that disguise themselves as opportunities? Because if you can actually get good at spotting this quadrant here and not kidding yourself and not fooling yourself and actually doing the work that feels tough, that really is like, you really do feel resistance towards it, then you will become unstoppable. The biggest reason why people don't actually end up becoming unstoppable and don't actually end up being productive is because they tell themselves shit like, oh, I don't have time. By the way, I made a video on that. A card should be popping up right now. If you feel like you don't have time, just watch the video and you'll get like fucking 3 hours extra every day, I promise. But the thing is, you don't need more time. You need more decision-making capabilities to be making better decisions, because I don't work for more than like 4 hours a day, what I would classify as work, yet I get a lot done. And that's because I know exactly what to do. I don't waste time on these kind of tasks anymore. And sure, I did. The whole video so far was me giving examples of when I fucked up in the past 1 to 2 years where I actually did work on tasks that weren't actually that conducive to my success. So learn from me and be like this person who doesn't fucking kid themselves and be like, oh yeah, I gotta work 15 hours a day and I saw some cool person, $100 million CEO do that, so I'm gonna work 15 hours a day. Just shut the fuck up. Think about this. If every single day you worked for 3 or 4 or 5 or even 2 hours, but you actually got the tasks done which actually moved you forward in your life, would you be happy? Would that already be a good day? Because chances are yes. We end up saying that, oh, we work 8 hours when like 2 of that is lunch break and the toilet break, and then 6 hours working kind of distracted, and when our phone notifications are on and our phone's on the desk in the first place, and we're working on kind of like cope tasks and it doesn't really matter. So we work like 1 hour a day, best case. So, wrapping this video up, focus on this shit and actually become very good at identifying what are the tasks that are actually mistakes, but they disguise themselves as opportunities, and make sure that you only do this short 80 also when you need to. Like cooking a meal, for example, is useful if it helps you work afterwards, because obviously like you kind of need to be satiated, you kind of need to eat, you need to take a shower, you need to clean your room, you need to do kind of these things. But the thing is, you might end up falling into the distraction, you might end up falling for the distraction that is like, oh, someone said you need to cook a new meal because it's a cool trick or a cool like fucking hack or something to have a new meal in your arsenal. But what if you're someone who never really cared about cooking and you already had like 2 meals that you were making very, very well, quickly, and they were healthy? Why would you need to learn any more than that? Like, you get me, that's someone else's desire that they've put onto you, and you're like, oh no, someone said that it's productive to learn new meals because, I don't know, Gordon Ramsay said that everyone should learn at least 5 meals, and now I'm going to learn a new one. That's also just like, kind of both of these, because you're kind of cooking for yourself, so you'll be satiated, but you're also saying, oh no, in the future it will pay dividends because I will surprise my future wife with this new meal. Like, sure, but who gives a fuck? You want to get rich, don't you? You want to make business progress. You want to make progress in the gym or whatever the fuck your goal is. So focus on this for the love of God, please. And please X these out for the most part. Obviously this you should leave a bit of room for, but X them out. And this I don't even have to talk about because you already know this is bad. Even when you do these kind of things, you don't look at it as a lens of progress. When you do like eating junk food or doing drugs or doing shit that isn't even that useful and that is short-term shit, you already know that it's not useful. So that's why I don't really talk about this. Don't do this and do the minimal amount of this. And if you just do like a fucking few hours of this, you should already be golden.